What I see in it utterly frightens me. We have, as I said, over 300 pages. We have 4 or 5 words on climate change. And we have between 25 and 30 pages on the militarization of Europe. Without a doubt, we are signing up hook, line and sinker to the militarization of Europe.
The military implications of the Lisbon Treaty raise serious concerns for all member states of the EU, but particularly for Ireland, which is supposed to be a so-called neutral country. And while we hear a lot about the legally binding declarations, these themselves mean absolutely nothing. They're only the political interpretation of the heads of state of what they think the treaty means, but it will be up to the Court of Justice to decide what the treaty actually means and to interpret the treaty. And I think what's most interesting is that Ireland has not requested one single opt-out from the military aspects of the Lisbon Treaty, and that itself raises serious concerns about how far down the military road within the European Union Ireland is willing to go before it says enough is enough.
The Europol, which is also available for the EU, demonstrated again that EU-NATO complementarity is now a fact of life.
The Lisbon Treaty contains a solidarity clause and a mutual defence clause, both of which give the European Union huge possibilities to request member states to come to the assistance of all member states. The wording of these clauses is very similar to the mutual defence clause that's in NATO. And the Irish government, successive governments, have always promised that we would never sign up to any mutual pact. But in actual fact, what's in the Lisbon Treaty is very, very similar to what is in NATO. And we should ask questions about why Ireland has not requested an opt-out from this section of the treaty. While we have heard assurances from the government that the Lisbon Treaty does not entail any military spending or any increased military spending, the fact remains, it's there in black and white, that Ireland, along with all the other member states, has to progressively improve its military capabilities. Now, how it can progressively improve its military capabilities without that entailing military spending is, I think, the question that needs to be answered. Should we endorse a treaty that gives the European arms industry, which we all know are basically the merchants of death, that gives them such a huge role in deciding how European taxpayers' money will be spent? The Lisbon Treaty expands quite dramatically the military possibilities of the EU. And what is most alarming is that while it expands the military possibilities and the military actions that the EU can take, there is no requirement for a UN mandate. There is a lot of talk about adhering to the principles of the UN, but there is no requirement for a UN mandate. And as we all know, even the war in Iraq, it was apparently said that this was in line with the principles of the UN. So I think we really should ask questions about allowing the EU to expand its military capabilities and its military opportunities much further without having an assurance that a UN mandate will be required before any military action is taken.